Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. I'm pregnant and my husband has been sleeping with my mother. Plus update. I 26 female, found out my husband 30 male, is hooking up with my mother 52 female, and I honestly don't know how to react. I'm 4 months pregnant, and I'm trying not to stress since it's bad for the baby. I honestly had suspicions about my husband cheating. When I announced my pregnancy, he seemed happy, over the moon actually. He was kissing me and telling me how lucky he was to have me, but now he changed. About 2 weeks after my surprise announcement, he stopped hugging me and kissing me like usual. He stopped eating the meals I'd make for him after work and said he already ate some fast food or something. I also noticed he had changed his lock screen, which was a picture of us, not sure if that meant anything to be honest. I found out 3 days ago. I went through his phone while he was in the shower and found text messages, videos, pictures. I'm sick to my stomach thinking about what I saw. I saw pictures of my mom in lingerie, and he was replying with pictures as well, showing how turned on he was. I even saw a message of regret. He had said that maybe they should stop since he didn't want to hurt me, but my mom said I wouldn't get hurt as long as they kept it all a secret. But what angered me the most was the message she sent a few days ago. I'll quote it here so anyone reading this can get an idea of how serious their affair is and has been. I love you so much, more than you think. You've helped me through the passing of my beloved ex-husband, and for that I truly thank you. I know it is hard for you to keep a secret like this, for me it is too. I love my daughter with all my heart, but she will have to accept eventually that love is love, and that the heart wants what it wants. Our hearts want each other. I thought that ever since my husband died, nobody would ever love me because I'm just an old woman, but you have shown me to love myself, and made me feel young and sexy again. Let's keep having fun and cherishing each other. I think it's important to know my father passed away about 5 years ago from a stroke, and my mother said she refused to get back into dating or romance because my father is her forever love, and only. It's absolute BS. I'm freaking crushed, and it's the fact that I know they hooked up after that message, because that was the night he didn't come home until 1 in the morning due to work and paid overtime. I actually threw up after reading that message. I have screenshots of the messages and have sent the videos to myself. Of course, I deleted them on his phone so it looked like he never sent me anything. But I'm numb. I'm confused. I'm hurt so bad. I can't even cry because I refuse to believe it. My husband is at work while I'm sitting on the edge of my bed writing this. Any advice, please? I'm desperate for just a little bit of anything, really. This baby in me is honestly the only thing preventing me from confrontation. I'm afraid that confronting them now will cause too much stress and anger, and I want the best for my child. At this point, all I want to do is have my baby. Christmas is soon, and I don't want to ruin it for the family. I had also planned on announcing my pregnancy to everyone that day. Please help me. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Contact a lawyer. Organize your finances. Map out a game plan. If there is someone you can trust, maybe move in with them. Don't keep this to yourself. Once you know what you're going to do, leave or kick him out. Let everyone know what has been going on. Do not let them get away with this. Get a lawyer and get full custody or primary in place. Your mom and baby dad are gonna fill that kid's head up with BS. Protect yourself. Any lawyer will gleefully take your case. You even have proof. They are both disgusting and do not love you as they claim. Expose both of them and see how strong their love for each other is. Do not keep their secrets. But before confronting, first talk to a lawyer. This is a massive betrayal, and I am sorry you are going through this. Make sure you have all your ducks in a row. But seriously, your mom sounds like a terrible human being. Your husband sounds sorta like he was getting manipulated by her. Not saying he doesn't suck, but that mom seems manipulative as hell. Wow, your mother loves you with all her heart, yet she's sleeping with your husband. You don't need that witch or that lowlife husband in your life. Just break free and be happy with your baby. With all her heart. She never specified how much heart she has. And now for the update. Thank you all so much for the support. Really, you don't understand how much it means to me to see so many strangers online wishing me well. Around 2 hours ago, I confronted my husband when he came home from work. I told him that I know everything. I showed him the pictures and messages. At first he denied it, but when I showed him the evidence, he started crying. Crying. Actually crying. He had the nerve to cry and get on his knees while holding and caressing my stomach. He told me that I would be a bad mother if I left him, and raised my child without a father, because a baby needs a dad in their life to fully grow mentally and physically. I honestly don't know what to say at that, except that it's pure BS. I told him that I was contacting a lawyer in order to file for divorce. I had already packed my things before he came home. I'm currently staying at a local motel about 30 minutes away from my home. I've asked my cousin if I can stay with her for a few days, and she agreed. I'm getting everything sorted from there. My husband has been blowing up my phone with messages and apologies. He's told me that if I take him back, he won't do anything to hurt me ever again, and he will cut all ties with my mother. As for her, I've also confronted her. I messaged her once I got to my motel. I told her I was pregnant and that she will never get to see her grandchild. She has not responded yet. I have also moved all my finances that I had in our shared bank account to my personal savings account. You don't understand how grateful and appreciative I am for the support. I apologize that I could not reply to all the personal messages I've been receiving as well. It's been hell. I'll try my best to update if my mother does end up replying to me. Again, thank you all so much. Next story. Update. My 37 male, son 21 male, slept with my girlfriend 32, and I don't know how to process this level of betrayal. Original post. I apologize in advance if this isn't the most coherent thing in the world. This is partially just me venting to the void. About 4 years ago, I lost my wife, the mother of my son, to lung cancer. We had been together since we were 14. It was the darkest time in my life. I had considered ending it all on a nearly daily basis. I pushed on for my son, and because my wife made me promise to make the most of life. We had our son pretty young. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, and thankfully was able to provide a decent upbringing until he moved out at 16, although I still paid, and continued to do so until this happened, a portion of his bills. The loss was extremely hard on my son as well. He came back to stay with me for a while, and we'd work through the grief together every day. I got him into therapy, pushed him to get involved in things to keep his mind busy, and when he moved back into his apartment, I'd call every night to check on him and visited multiple times a week. We were always extremely close. My wife told me outright after her diagnosis that she didn't want me alone, so I made myself available. My girlfriend and I met about 2 years ago and hit it off. She isn't my wife, but I loved her for who she was, and we really connected. I was reluctant to introduce her to my son because I was afraid he'd feel I was betraying his mother, so I held off for the first year, which I regretted as they ended up getting along very well. We'd hang out together, my son was happy, I was happy, and she moved in with me about 5 months ago. This past Thursday he was over for dinner and movies. We've had this little game since he was a teenager where I'd pop up over his shoulder when he was on his phone in common areas and say, "Stop looking at that," in an accusing way to mess with him, even though he was never looking at anything. Turns out this time, he was doing something, and I saw topless photos on his phone. I recognized the photos to be of my girlfriend, same tattoo placement between the breasts. I grabbed the phone from him, and he immediately starts pleading his case. I go into gallery, and there are easily 24 photos of my girlfriend, some of him I'm assuming he sent to her, 1 or 2 of them together. By this time, he's crying and trying to grab the phone back. I check his texts and he has 2 weeks worth of conversations with her under a different name, detailing the fact they've been fooling around behind my back. My girlfriend is in the room begging to know what's going on. I'm not proud of the fact that I lost myself. I screamed at them both. I smashed the phone. Yes, I know this is unacceptable. Yes, I'm in therapy. Yes, it's the first time I got aggressive with either of them. Then I demanded details. My son kept apologizing and saying he didn't know why and that it had only started 2 weeks ago. They slept together 3 times. My girlfriend was sobbing and kept trying to hug me, telling me it was a mistake, purely physical, and that she'd never speak to him again. I screamed at my son that I'd given my life to him, that he knew what this meant to me, that he was all I had left. I pulled him upstairs and gave him the money for his phone, and kicked him out. I went upstairs to our bedroom, turned her drawers upside down and packed her clothes into 2 travel bags while she kept asking me to listen. I put them outside, guided her through the door, and told her she could have someone else get the rest of her belongings this week. Both of them have been texting me nonstop until last night, at which point I blocked their number. I feel completely detached. The fact that after 2 years, my girlfriend, knowing my history, could betray me is painful enough, and absolutely nothing will make me forgive her. She refuses to get her stuff until I talk to her, so I'm having a friend drop it off to her. The fact my son, who I dropped everything for, worked nonstop to provide for, who was all I had left in this world, could do this to me, knowing what it would do, is another pain entirely. It feels like I lost another family member. I ache for my wife all over again. I know everyone processes grief differently, but this was 2 years after her passing. He had a girlfriend and I was there for him as were therapists, every step of the way, so I have a hard time believing grief is the cause of his decision. I can't see this as a mistake. He didn't trip and fall. It was a conscious choice to betray someone who loved him. I want to honor my wife by giving my son a chance to hold on to the little family I have left. But this isn't like he stole money from me. It isn't even something that happened once while drunk. He was there for that grief with me. He knew how hard it was for me to move on. Of all the women, he chose mine. All the apologies or future effort can't erase that fact or the memory of it. I never did wrong by him, and now I feel like the kid I raised isn't there anymore. Thanks to friends, I'm not drifting into thoughts of self-harm again, but I don't know if I have it in me to ever forgive him. If and when that day comes, what steps can I take to process what happened? Do I talk to him without feeling disgust and open the door to trusting him again? And if that day never comes, does that make me a bad person? Edit some brief clarification since people on the other relationship sub took this and ran with it. 1. Nothing caused him to move out. He asked and said it'd be cool, and I helped pay his bills. No hidden resentment I've ever been aware of. 2. Yes, popping up over his shoulder sometimes was something we both found funny. No, I wasn't actually trying to invade his privacy. Yes, he was a part of the joke. 3. Yes, I know I was aggressive. I paid for the phone and will be discussing it in therapy. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I am so sorry this happened to you. I think you handled things pretty well, all things considered. Obviously, your ex is somebody you should ever speak to again. Your son is 21, so he was making adult decisions, and this did not just happen once. I would honestly give this a lot of time, and probably some counseling to figure out where you want to go in terms of your relationship with him. Thank you. I know in my heart I want my son in my life. I don't think it's possible for me to stop loving him, but I don't much like him right now, and unfortunately my mind isn't in agreement with my heart. I'm not sure I can forgive this, but I hope that with effort and time, the rawness will at least fade enough to allow us to move past it and create new memories together. When I cool down enough, I'll suggest joint therapy to him, as I know I'm not ready to discuss it calmly without a mediator present. And I also expect him to inform his girlfriend of what he did, or I will, as she was also betrayed and deserves to know. It's going to be a long road, and my get up and go has pretty much gotten up and left by this point, but I'm trying to be optimistic. My uncle got in a terrible divorce, and to cope, began dating a girl who was aged closer to me. Over several months, she had been coming on to me, and when my uncle and her had an argument, she tried getting me to sleep over for a night. I was clearly aware of what the risk, my relationship with my uncle, also damaging his well-being, and benefit, sleeping with one girl was. Your son should have been able to comprehend the significance of his actions too. I would question him on this, because he willingly jeopardized his relationship with you and struck your well-being. Now for the update. First off, I'd like to thank everyone for the enormous outpouring of support. I've had numerous people offering to their well wishes privately, and such compassion from those who commented. I believe it was this support, as well as that from my friends, that kept me from doing anything stupid. I'll try to keep this as concise and short sentenced as possible. It's been a busy couple of days to say the least. I unblocked both their numbers shortly after posting. My now ex called again that night, which I answered. I told her if she wasn't calling to make plans to pick up her stuff, I was hanging up, and we decided on the next morning. I called a platonic female friend of mine that night, and she agreed to be at my place before my ex showed up as a witness. I had everything packed up and waiting by the door. She showed up as expected, and started crying immediately when I came out with her stuff, trying to pull the bags to the ground so I'd have my hands free for a hug. I put the bags beside her car and asked her to check if I missed anything, which she refused. I agreed to a quick hug, told her to take care, and walked inside. My friend then pulled the chair she was sitting in on my porch over so it was in front of my door, and told her that she was calling the cops if she didn't leave. She did, and I blocked her number again. I texted and called my son numerous times, and left a voicemail telling him that we needed to talk, but first he had to come clean to his girlfriend and accept responsibility for his actions. He didn't respond, so I called her myself. We chatted for a while, and she told me he was out with a friend. I asked if he had spoken to her about anything recently, and she said no. So, I told her myself. Mostly because I felt it was the right thing to do, as she was a victim in this too, but I'll admit partially because he's a grown man now and needs to deal with the consequences. He showed up to my place that evening, and I let him in. I'm ashamed to say I wasn't nearly as calm as I hoped I'd be. He asked if ruining his relationship made me feel better, and I told him that he ruined it. Pretty much any hope of productive conversation went out the window, and it became a screaming match, at which point I told him to get out and figure out how to deal with being as alone as I was. He slapped me in the head. This is a kid who never even threw a toy out of anger in childhood, who wasn't even spanked. And as disgusting and twisted as it is, this exploded into a physical fight, with me being struck in the face multiple times while trying to restrain him as I didn't have it in me to hit him. My son very much not being a fighter, while in my younger years I very much was. until I took him off his feet and held him to the floor. I've never felt that level of rage before, how incredibly overwhelming it was. When I saw the fear on his face, I led him up and sat beside him on the floor. I told him to get out. He started crying and told me that his mother would be ashamed of him. This made me break down, pathetically so, and realize how messed up this whole thing has been. I agreed that she'd be ashamed of both of us, and we hugged while he cried into my chest, something he hasn't done since my wife passed. He asked if it was too late to talk, and I told him it wasn't. I cleaned myself up, we sat at the kitchen table and talked. He told me that he'd stopped therapy a while ago and lied about it, because he felt it wasn't helping. He told me that he was hurt when I kept my girlfriend from him the first year, because although he knew it was to prevent him getting attached if it didn't work out, he still felt excluded. It came out that he hid a very well-concealed alcohol problem from me, and even his girlfriend. He told me he didn't sleep with her despite me, that he was just feeling lost and he made a stupid choice. I asked him why he couldn't have been honest with me before it came to this, and he told me he didn't feel like he could be honest with himself anymore. We cried together again, prayed together despite neither of us being religious, looked through family photo albums together. We discussed the road forward, and we agreed that the loss we both felt went far deeper than we thought. We decided on attending therapy together. We're going to look into support groups both for his drinking and other families dealing with loss. And now that he's without his girlfriend and I'm aware of the extent of his issues, I agreed to let him move back home with me, so I can make sure he attends his appointments and avoid alcohol, and hopefully so we can bond again, with the stipulation that any more violence and he's out the door. He asked me if I can ever forgive him, and I told him honestly that I couldn't, but he's still my son and I love him. And I reminded him of what his mother told him when he was a kid, that everyone messes up, it's what you do afterwards that makes the difference. I'll never forgive what he did, but if he learns from this and becomes a better person, then I can forget it and have a great relationship with him regardless. Aside from the fact my lip resembles the mouth of the vampires from Blade 2 for now, which has prompted concern from neighbors and friends, the past 2 days have been great. We've been talking, we cooked dinner together, we've gone on walks, and we're set to start looking into professional help this coming week. He's incredibly apologetic and has a tenderness I haven't seen from him in years. I have no illusions about the amount of work to be done nor how serious this incident was, but I'm feeling very optimistic about the future. I'm going against grain here, but I don't think letting a person like that move into your home is a good idea. Chances are you are going to regret it and it will be hard to get rid of him. I have a tendency to stand by my word, and I made it very clear to him that if another incident like this occurs, I'll have the police remove him. That said, I have faith in my son. Part of the blame lays on my shoulders for giving him too much credit at too young an age, thinking that because we always had a stable relationship that he would automatically handle the grief he was going through appropriately or turn to me for help unprompted. I was there for him, but I took his honesty at face value when I should have ensured his stability. The pain of the betrayal came mostly because I didn't understand why it happened. Now that I know, I can see a road to fixing it. By no means is him staying here unconditional, nor have I written off his choices. He needs to do a lot of work on himself, and I'm going to make sure he does. But assuming he puts in the effort, then so will I if it took a busted lip and some heartache to get my kid to become a better man and find happiness. I can endure that.